ויחיו חיי שרה 100 שנה, ו20 שנה, ו7 שנים, שני חיי שרה. ותמת שרה בקריית ארבע, היא חברון בארץ כנען, ויבוא אברהם לספוד לשרה ולבכותה.
Okay, vayihu. Vayihu means and they were. Va means and. Yah makes it third person. And the u part here makes it plural, they. Okay, and they were. This is a verb of being. It's related to Hashem's sacred name, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. And this is Chayei, which means life of. Now the word life is Chaim, and it's always in plural form. It's another one of those words in the Hebrew where it's always plural. A noun that's always plural. There's no other way to say it except for Chaim. Chai means live. It's a verb. So the only way to say life is Chaim, and so that is singular or plural. It's the same word. So just like mayim, which is or mayim, which means water. It's only plural form. Okay, so Chayei, Chaim is life. Chayei means life of. Okay, and then we have Sarah here. This is a name, of course, the name of Sarah in Hebrew, the life of Sarah. Me'ah means 100, it's a number. Shana means year. This is in the singular form because anything over 10 in biblical Hebrew, you just say year, not years. And if it's under 10, you'll say years like we do here, shanim. Okay, and then we have ve'esrim, which means and 20. Ve means and. Eser is 10. Esrim is 20. Shana again means year, so 20 years. We're going to add this up when we translate it into English. 127 years. Okay, that's how we simplify it when we're translating it over to English. And then we have vesheva. Ve means and sheva means 7. And we have shanim, which means years, and again it's plural because this is under 10, it's 7. Then we have shanei, which means years of. Shanim is years, shanei is years of. And then Chayei is life of, and then we have Sarah again. And then the next verse, Vatamat, Vatamat. We know that the accent is on the first syllable because of this trope mark right here. That's amunach. So the accent is on ta, Vatamat. Anything that you don't recognize as a vowel is a trope mark, and it tells you the accent of the word as well as the sound of the word, depending on what nusach, what custom the melody will be. Okay, so vatamat. Now tamat can mean you, but it can also mean she. It really depends just on the context. And we know it's talking about Sarah, so we know this means she. Okay, so again, the tav in the beginning can mean you, or it can mean feminine third person she. It just depends on the context. So vatamat, and she died. Also, and I'll say this every once in a while just so you remember, the va here is a reverse of vav. It changes the tense, it flips the tense around. Without the vav, tamat would be you, she will die or you will die. With the vav, it reverses the tense, so it's now and she died. Okay. It's not always like that, but especially in the beginning of a verse, it's often like that. This is a reverse of vav and it flips the tense. Okay. This is biblical Hebrew only, not modern Hebrew. Okay. Sarah, Sarah, again. Bekiryat means in the village. The ba means in. Okay. And Kiryat is a village of. Okay. And Arba is it means four, but it's the name, so it's never translated as four. But Arba is 4. Okay. But usually when it's translated, it just says in Kiryat Arba. It doesn't even translate Kiryat as village. Usually Kiryat is part of the name when it's translated into English. Okay. He means she, and it's talking about the village because in Hebrew, places are usually feminine. Okay, so she talking about the village. The village, Kiryat Arba, Hebron, is in Hebron. Interesting enough, the gas station Chevron was named after this biblical name, Hebron. Be'eretz means in the land, actually just inland, but to translate it into English, we would say in the land. Then we would also say of right here. Be means Be means in, and Eretz means land. And then we have Canaan. Canaan is Canaan. Okay, so in the land of Canaan. So this is Hebron in the land of Canaan. And our family wanted to visit Hebron to see, the tomb of the patriarchs, but it was a lot of our friends warned against visiting there because it was controlled by Palestinians and violence sometimes, would break out. So we didn't get to go. But there are many tourists and Jews who do go there to visit the tomb. Okay, in Hebron in Israel today. Vayavo means and he came. So this is a new thought now. Okay, and he came Avraham. So Abraham came. Lispod means to eulogize. The le right here is to eulogize. Le Sarah. Le here we would translate the la here is for. Oh, excuse me. This should be Sarah. Okay, there we go. I changed it real quick. Le Sarah for Sarah. The le part means for. It's the same as this, but you translate it a little bit differently. To eulogize for Sarah. In English translations, they just drop the word for. And then here, ve'liv kotah. That means and to bewail her or to weep over her, mourn for her. The means and the le part means to. The bekot, this part, the bekot means bewail. And this part right here, and we pronounce the hey because of the mapik, the dot in the hey That means her, and to bewail her. The part means her. Now let's read the whole Aliyah, the first Aliyah of Chayei from Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan's English version of the Living Torah. And the first Aliyah is found in Genesis chapter 23, verse 1 to 16. And it says, Sarah had lived to be 127 years old. These were the years of Sarah's life. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. Abraham came to eulogize Sarah and to weep for her. Abraham rose from beside his dead, and he spoke to the children of Het. I am an immigrant and a resident among you, he said. Sell me property for a burial place with you so that I can bury my dead and not have her here right in front of me. The children of Het replied to Abraham, saying to him, Listen to us, sir. You are a prince of God in our midst. Take our best burial site to bury your dead. No one among us will deny you his burial site to bury your dead. Abraham rose and he bowed down to the local people, the children of Het. He spoke to them and said, If you really want to help me bury my dead and put her out of my presence, listen to me and speak up for me. To Ephron, son of Zohar, let him sell me the Machpelah cave, which belongs to him at the edge of his field. Let him sell it to me in your presence for its full price as a burial property. Ephron was then sitting among the children of Het. Ephron the Hittite replied to Abraham in the presence of the children of Het, so that all who came to the city gate could hear. No, my lord, he said, listen to me. I have already given you the field. I have also given you the cave that is there. Here in the presence of my countrymen, I have given it to you. Bury your dead. Abraham bowed down before the local people. He spoke to Ephron so that all the local people could hear. If you will only listen to me, he said, I am giving you the money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. Ephron replied to Abraham, saying, My lord, listen to me. What's 400 silver shekels worth of land between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham understood what Ephron meant. He weighed out for Ephron the silver that had been mentioned in the presence of the children of Het, 400 shekels in negotiable currency. It says in Genesis chapter 23, verse 1, Now Sarah lived 120 years. These were the years of the life of Sarah. It's Genesis 23:1. So before talking about Sarah's death, the Torah says twice the life of Sarah. It says, Now the life of Sarah was 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. That's how it's worded in the Hebrew. It says it twice. Then it says Sarah died. So the verse talks about her death only once, but why does it talk about her life? Why is it worded that way? Why does it say that phrase, life of Sarah, 2 times? It didn't have to be said that way. It didn't have to be repeated. It wasn't necessary grammatically. And, in Judaism, we believe that every single word matters, even every single letter, every slightest stroke. So the mystics teach that this is to remind us, this repetition is to remind us that even though Sarah died, she lived on. She lives on. So people of faith anticipate a second life after the first life. We only die in this body once, but we will live again. And although she sleeps in Hebron, there's many different interpretations regarding life after death. This is just one. So one interpretation is right now she is sleeping in that cave in Hebron. But she lives, her spirit lives, and she will live in bodily form again also because she was a woman of faith. So because she was able to have faith and keep her faith in Hashem, even in her death, she has a second life, which is why it's repeated in that verse according to Jewish legend. And this photo that I used in the background is a beautiful photo of an Orthodox Jewish woman at that cave, at the tomb where Sarah was buried. Not only Sarah, but also our patriarchs. This is the cave of Machpelah, which is in Israel. It's currently controlled by Muslims, so it can be somewhat dangerous to visit there. But there are tourists that go there still, and it is a tourist attraction for both Jews and also Christians and Muslims as well, since Abraham is known as the father of all 3 of the monotheistic faiths. All three faiths, all 3 followers of all 3 faiths visit this tomb. So here is a better view of the cave of Machpelah. So the cave of Machpelah is the world's most ancient Jewish site, and it's considered the second holiest place for the Jewish people, after, of course, the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, or the Wailing Wall, the Kotel. But so this is the second holiest site. The cave and the adjoining field were purchased at full market price by Abraham about 3,700 years ago, according to our Torah portion. And Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah are all later buried in the same cave of Machpelah, but Sarah was the first. So these are considered the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Jewish people. And the only one who is missing is Rachel, who was buried near Bethlehem, where she died in childbirth. Now, the double cave was a mystery for thousands of years, and it was uncovered not too long ago, not too many years ago, beneath the massive building. And it revealed artifacts from the early Israelite period about 30 centuries ago. And the structure was built during the Second Temple period, about 2,000 years ago, by King Herod. And it provided a place for gatherings and Jewish prayers at the graves of the patriarchs. It's a very impressive building, and it's the only one that still stands intact and still fulfills its original function after all these thousands of years. Foreign conquerors and invaders used the site for their own purposes, depending on their religion. So the Byzantines and Crusaders transformed it into a church, and the Muslims made it into a mosque. About 700 years ago, the Muslim Mamelukes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, they conquered Hebron, and declared this building as a mosque. And they forbade entry to Jews, and Jews were not allowed past the seventh step on the staircase outside the building. In 1967, Hebron was liberated, and the chief rabbi of the Israel Defense Forces, the late Major General Rabbi Shlomo Goren, was the first Jew to re-enter the cave of Machpelah. And since then, we have been struggling to regain our right to pray at that site, which is still run by the Muslim Waqf, a religious trust that took control during the Arab conquest. So it's run by Muslims right now. There are a lot of restrictions that are imposed on Jewish prayers and customs at the Tomb of the Patriarchs, despite the site's significance, primacy, and sanctity in Judaism, in Jewish history. More than 300,000 people visit Ma'arat HaMachpelah, the Cave of Machpelah, every year. And the structure is divided into 3 rooms. Ohel Avraham, the tent of Abraham, Ohel Yitzchak, the tent of Isaac, and Ohel Yaakov, the tent of Jacob. And right now, we have no access to Ohel Yitzchak. Jews do not have access to Ohel Yitzchak, which is the largest room, with the exception of 10 days every year. So now that we have a little bit of history about the setting, especially in modern times, I'd like to go back to the Aliyah, to our Torah portion. So the story of Sarah's death almost immediately follows the story of the binding of Isaac, or the Akedah. And there's only a brief genealogy of Rebecca between the two events. So the sages have asked, is there a connection between Isaac's binding and the death of Sarah? In Jewish thought, there is a direct correlation between the death of Sarah and the binding of Isaac. So in some legends, Sarah actually died from shock when she heard that her husband, Abraham, almost sacrificed their son. One midrash says that when she heard how her son had been bound on the altar, she was so overcome by fright that her soul fled from her body. Now, based on this midrash, we can also derive the tradition that we have regarding Isaac's age. So in that tradition, it allows us to calculate Isaac's age at the time of his binding. So because Sarah gave birth to Isaac at the age of 90, he must have been 36 or 37 years old when Abraham brought him to the altar. And the Hebrew does allow for that. I explained that in a different video, that the words described for the story of Yitzhak does not mean that he's a little boy, that it means that he is a young man and a bachelor. And there's another version of Jewish legend that says that Satan that Satan tried to stop the sacrifice of Isaac from happening because he wanted to thwart Abraham and stop the covenant promises. But he failed to dissuade Abraham and Isaac from obeying Hashem. And so then, according to legend, he turned to Sarah. And according to this legend, and this is from Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer 32, Hasidic Jewish commentary. Satan said, "Alas, Sarah, have you not heard what has happened?" And she replies, "No." And Satan says, "Your husband took Isaac, slaughtered him, and offered him up as a burnt offering on the altar. The boy wept, but there was no one to save him." And Sarah began to weep and cry. And she cried out 3 times, like the 3 tekiah blasts of the shofar. She then sobbed 3 times, like the 3 teruah sounds of the shofar. And then her soul departed and she died. And so this is, one midrash, one legend where we get the idea that, that the Akedah is tied to Rosh Hashanah, to Yom Teruah, the day of the shofar blasts. We have such a rich heritage and tradition in Judaism. It's just so beautiful that, our faith is not just found in books, but also in the land of Israel. And, the whole reforming of the nation of Israel in 1948 is such a miraculous event. And even though we live in bittersweet times right now with war and, without access to the holy sites like the cave of Machpelah and Hebron, and also, we can't rebuild the temple, so on and so forth, still we have so much to hope for. And there's so much, so many miracles that are on our side that continue to give us hope for the future and for the promises and the blessings found in the Torah. And of course, this Torah portion regarding the life of Sarah and how she lived once, but she will live again, according to our study today, is just one hope, one miracle among many that we have to hold on to. Thank you so much for learning Hebrew with me again. And please visit my website if you haven't done so, www.hebrewmime.com. Click on this button, join my network, where you can also look at the different sections I have. If you need to learn the Aleph Bet, or if you'd like to learn some prayers and blessings. I have all of my videos for Biblical Hebrew for the Torah portion here, and then also some videos on ancient Hebrew, on troping, how to trope the Torah. And also if you want further Hebrew lessons from my friend Seth in Israel. So if you click on this Join My Network button, you can fill out this form and I will email you the weekly video lessons. Sometimes I try to do 2 emails per week. And sometimes there are more or less during the holidays. And I also send out invitations to online events for holidays and other occasions as well, guest speakers online or sometimes even locally. And also I am an herbalist and health coach, so you can visit me at www.aruka.com. I believe that the creator of heaven and earth is also the great physician, and he can heal everything from sickness and disease to broken hearts and homes. If you visit my website and click on the link here or the free ebook link, subscribe to learn how to raise a healthy, holistic family in spite of your doctor, and you will also get my free ebook, The Intermittent Fasting Formula, Diet Protocol for Sustainable and Rapid Weight Loss. Thank you so much again for learning Hebrew with me.